Recording. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Positive Masculinity Podcast, Episode 4. I'm here with my cousin, Nick Derango.
Hello. Very excited to be here. Excited to share my view of masculinity from having a lifetime of man. So
That usually helps, you know?
It does. It doesn't hurt, at least for me. So I guess we'll see how this goes, but
Yeah. Okay. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the most open-ended question, What's your life story?
I work at Costco at the tire center over there, busting tires with all the dirty, nasty all day. And for that, I was over in the produce department, working in there. That kind of stuff, which is a little bit easier, but you're definitely dealing with more people. A lot of social interactions, basically, from all that. Going to college, trying to thrive for that education, and guy living down by the beach on his own and taking each day one day at a time.
Cool. What about growing up? Anything like kind of related to masculinity, any canon events to, use a word that everyone gets now?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I did a lot of baseball as part of growing up. I started when I was, I think, four or five. So, it was a good chunk from 4 until high school. About 16, 17 is when I stopped. But, that primarily heavily like a male team sport of boys running around, being boys, getting into trouble, hoodlum stuff. Even growing up, my closest group was just a bunch of us guys from the block, and we actually went through elementary school, middle school, as well as school together. And it looks like Rudy Giuliani's trying to jump into our conversation, so this might get a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how Noah got in here, honestly.
Nice. I like his picture. There's funnier Rudy pictures too, though.
Yeah.
I don't even know what is mine. Guillermo.
Let me see what we can do here. Okay. Anyways, sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're all good. So just experiences in my past with masculine. I was thinking of one too that was a fairly masculine classified thing that we used to do, me and you, all the time. Lizard catching. We used to go in the backyard like all the time, just lifting up logs, just reaching in little crevices, trying to grab these handfuls of lizards. Basically, you're getting pretty good at it. And for traditionally, at least traditionally speaking, that's a little more of like an icky thing. There's not a lot of very feminine people or girls or out there at least back in that day who are super down to go lizard hunting. And they, not to say that we were really good at it, but with time and with dexterity stuff, and you're kind of messing around in the mud, it's just it's what I thought was like a kind of a masculine thing we did a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And even with my group of friends, like, we did stupid things like that. We'd go catch spiders in the bottle and make them try to fight each other, like King Kong style,
Yeah.
like Godzilla fights,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've done that with bees and wasps before. It's kind of messed up, honestly. Now that I'm
it's super messed up. Yeah, definitely. Like, it is at that time. It was a science experiment, and did become a scientist, and I classify myself as a scientist too. So it played into it. It's in our training. But abstractly, that's the kind of stuff that hero killers are born from.
Yeah, it's when you move. The bugs are fine. It's when you move on to like squirrels, then you're like, okay.
Squirrels, if you're taking off wings and like seeing what happens, or you're like, hey, maybe this squirrel has a shorter tail or something, that could be a little red flag. So
just a bit.
There's there's masculine things and there's psychotic things.
So,
Good. We're getting the classifications down.
so that's a good segue. What do you think it means to be masculine?
And that's a tough one too. I was thinking a little bit about like what masculinity even is. Like there are certain actions or traits or things that you can do that are masculine that can be classified. I mean, traditionally, like a masculine, personality is someone who's like maybe like tenacious or like driven, a little bit of like pride in there. There's like some of that ferocity as well as like a little bit of kind of it's just kind of classified as that, and a little bit less so of like stoicy, or someone who sits and thinks something through, or those traits are a little bit less, I guess, coveted these days, or at least in the traditional sense of what masculine was, or is, which is what at least I was growing up on, and you had quite a big influence from the '90s and 2000s. It's, it's a little bit harder of a classification, and I mean, not to say that those traits are bad. I mean, they're very good, but they can also be bad. If you're tenacious and driven and you want to pursue knowledge, that's awesome. But if you're tenacious and driven and boneheaded, that you kind of are just one of those people in the world.
Yeah, I think that the one of the ways that like in traditional masculine, traditional gender role culture, that like the tenacious and driven man is like becomes problematic very quickly is like dating culture, like that constant idea
Oh
of
yeah.
the chase, right? Like if you really think of like what the actions are, they're pretty much the same, and the difference is like
Mhm.
does somebody want you to do it or not, right? Which is
Exactly.
obviously consent is key, right? But like having actions that the only difference is does somebody
Yeah.
internally want you to do it or not is probably like
Yeah.
not a good setup for people, right?
Yeah.
Especially like
And
so.
don't even get me started on that with the females and the girls. Like what? Because then that's the thing too, is a lot of it. They'll they could want something or say they want it and not really, or in the moment not really, and I mean, at least for guys too, when it comes to females, a lot of their kind of psychological borders or barriers come down a little bit, and they act a little bit more base, at least from what I see. And you see more of the kind of animalistic masculine traits like peacocking, or alpha. I don't know if it's called alpha mailing, but like trying to act like you're like, oh yeah, I'm tough shit, and I'm like that. A lot more of that comes into play with when that comes in, and they classic, I guess the word for it would be a douchebag guy, you know.
Well, yeah, and
No.
I think it's even beyond the douchebag guy thing. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of socially awkward men won't pick up on like subtle signals, right? And like as I've gotten older, these subtle signals, like when I was little, I used to think like in high school I used to think, oh well, like it's not really obvious when a girl wants you to kind of go away, and it's like it's usually pretty obvious as an older person, but you never learn that. Like no one ever teaches you, hey man, that girl wants you to get kick rocks. Okay, you
Hey,
need to get out of here.
she's a little uncomfortable, and nowadays too. I mean, it's a weird thing that I'll also bring this up too. I see it at the beach a lot, or just like when I'm out and about, I'll be over here doing my workouts down there, doing something. Girl comes over, sits like right over by me, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, and maybe I'll do some stuff. I'll move down. She'll kind of move down again by me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird, I'm just, oh, hey, what's going on, say, and then she'll, oh, and just kind of like, oh, why are you talking to me? And it's like, oh, yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, even just someone being friendly and saying hi, oh, uh, I don't know. It's harder to get the cues now, and at least for me nowadays, like I'm very cool to just like, hey, you're gonna do your stuff and I'm doing my own thing. So I mean, cool. Like I like being friendly or whatever, but I'm definitely not gonna be in any way classified as a weirdo or like a creeper or anything. And I
Yeah,
mean, sometimes that's bad for me because it's not like a tenacious, like I'm not being like alpha male man. And that's subconsciously a lot of girls do like that. But for me, at least at this time and day and age, like I don't need to prove anything to anyone. And I'm for sure not going to be a guy, who people
yeah.
are like, oh, like, oh, like I remember this guy doing this and being all creepy on this girl. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
Do
we.
your thing, I do mine.
It would suck if we
You
knew
know.
someone like that.
Yeah, that's in no way any personal, like, I don't know anyone like that, and last couple weeks nothing like that's happened. But I'll tell you what, you don't want to be a creeper dude,
yeah,
and you just like an overtly like a cartoon of like a 1970s Italian guy, just like a like a total animal,
yeah.
I'm not. I'm good on all that. I got my own stuff going on. So,
Um, yeah. So, what do you think your most positive masculine quality is?
and that's a pretty tough one too. I mean, like for me, like some of my positive masculine qualities that I personally see or think of, it's more of my like stoicy. I see that as like a very masculine personally. But that's just from just doing different research education. I read a lot of like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which is like a lot about Stoic, like what like being like a man is, and like honor, like traditional being there for your peers or your family or the people that need it. When someone needs help, putting yourself out there, like all those are all for me. I mean, I guess I don't really overtly see them as a masculine trait. I see those as like my positive traits. But at least for me, that's something that I kind of thrive myself on, is being kind of that Marcus Aurelius stoic um, gentleman, I guess would be a good word for it.
I think, yeah, I think that I'd agree with you. I also think
Mm-hmm.
that like one of the best parts of it, best parts of your stoicism, is
Mm-hmm.
you're not so stoic that you're like emotionally cut off, right? Like when people are asking you what's wrong, and you're willing to talk about your feelings, and you're willing to like work through them with someone else if you need help, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
great a great addendum onto stoicism, I would say, right? Because
Absolutely.
that's gonna
Absolutely.
that is like one of the typical downfalls of stoicism is that you become this
Mm-hmm.
like
Statue.
you become the statue, right? And then eventually there's so much weight on top of the statue that the statue starts to crack, and then it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
like everyone needs some help sometimes.
That is true. There's only one Atlas, and even him, he could only do it for so long, you know.
Well, there is a reason they had to force him to do that.
Yeah. Hey, to be honest, though, he had it okay. I mean, there's what was it? Prometheus? Was he the one, or was he the one that was tied up on the mountain with
Yeah,
the
that,
crow eating his liver every day?
that's
So,
Prometheus. There's
yeah,
Sisyphus, where who has to
yeah,
roll the boulder up the hill and then roll back
yeah.
down, and like yeah,
God, dude, if that isn't just like the daily grind, then I don't know what is.
yeah,
Yeah, but though, and to bring that up, those points though, that like being able to talk about your feelings and share yourself, like that is a trait that I um, value in myself. Just being someone with a psychological background and who understands the importance of some people needing to talk stuff out, to being able to understand and realize things about yourself that you might not see. That trait though is, at least in my opinion, has been record traditionally like not a masculine trait at all, and is in many ways it's almost been like stigmatized if you're being a sissy boy, or like you're trained to not really have your feelings. At least I mean, I was around the 2000s era, and there's a lot of 90s like post like American Reaganomic type of like manly men ish, like, yeah. So that's the influence that we got, and our parents learned, that passed on to us. Whereas the traits we're learning are more that it is okay to share your feelings and not bottle stuff up, and express how you are feeling in a healthy way, instead of repressing it, and then it manifests as some weird like tick or thing that you like have to do to people to make yourself feel better. Like it's good that you're able to express yourself, but even so, like up until recently, that's not been like a manly trait. And even some of our parents or grandparents, if you try to talk to them about feelings, they might think you're being like kind of a girl, even though
yeah,
that's a super crappy term, and or not term, but just like not even, I don't know if it's an insult, but just like a descriptor to throw at someone.
yeah. And it also like not only are you insulting like the guy, but you're also like just insulting women
Yeah.
in general because
Like all women, like
yeah,
what? I mean, shit,
yeah,
like it's bad to share feelings. Like, do I should I just be hardcore, like put it all down, and then if anyone tries to express feelings, I shit on them, and that's how I make myself feel better about
Yeah.
like not expressing my
And
feelings. Like,
then one day you have a panic attack and then you shoot up a school. It's like, like.
yeah, weird how that happens. Either that, or you go crazy driving and like run into a building or something.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where we're at almost like these days. Like, it's weird how the generations of like just teaching and the influence kind of the shadow and kind of influences the next one. And I mean, I have no idea how next generation, how our kids are gonna be able to perceive things and take stuff. Because I mean, right now, I mean, a lot of the social norms that we knew have all gone out the window, and like it's a little kind of free for all ish, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, give me one second.
it's
Let me,
it.
let me close the door. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Anyways, another chance to plug these awesome Xbox headphones. It's probably why you can hear me a little better than Davin. Davin using Sony headphones, of
It's
course.
not Sony headphones, actually. These are like Aniha's super special gaming headphones.
Oh, okay, just kidding. But that being said, Xbox headphones still doing very well.
They are, I think,
Remember,
yeah.
X the box.
Um,
By the way, I just saw an Xbox commercial very recently. They had the Xbox and they were plugging Cyberpunk with it, and I was like, man, came out like 2 years ago.
it's because they released another DLC for it.
I know,
Yeah.
but I just thought it was funny. I was like, damn, I laughed so hard at that.
Um, yeah.
Anyway,
What do you think is your most negative masculine quality?
yeah, that's a tough one too. The negative masculine quality. I would say that I do have, there's times when my not anger, I guess, but I react to stuff more negatively than I'd like to. Um, I mean, there's certain situations, traffic, driving, someone slams their brakes on in front of you. know,
Yeah.
I'll be quick to start just throwing up insults like
Yeah.
like I had them prepared. That's something that I would like to try to do a little less
Of
of
course. Yeah.
myself. And another thing that just getting out a little bit more, and sometimes with the masculine, like you were saying, with the stoicism, it's easy to shut yourself off and kind of just be your own island. And at least for me, I mean, I live by myself. And that's a rare thing. I mean, it's hard to not, especially in San Diego, not have roommates, not have someone that you depend on, and be able to kind of do your own thing, make your own, I guess. But it's very easy when making your own hassle to make it an island and isolate yourself from people. We all get influenced too. There's certain things that happen where someone does something wrong to you, or it doesn't go your way, and so it's quick to say, man, I don't need anybody, I don't need anything, I can just do it all myself. And that could be a problem, because even if I can do everything myself and do it all and be like the perfect self-sustaining island or whatever, that still means that I'm taking myself away from maybe helping someone who needs it, or maybe someone helping me who when I need it. And I mean, it's just, that's something that I've noticed, that I'm very quick to isolate myself from things and be in my own world and kind of do my own. So just getting out there a little bit more, and not being the statue stoic, and being just more of a personable one too. Because I mean, like, every person, just like they have great capacity to spread you know bad stuff, bad feelings, anger, meanness, making someone's day worse. Every person has the capacity to make someone's day better. And it's for me too, like at my work, we're just doing manual labor stuff, here and there, and it can be very exhausting, it can be very tiring. But there are times when I see like an old person struggling at the air check, or some guy can't get the hose thing to work, and I'll run out and help him with some tire stuff, or some girl will need some help with something. And just the fact of them being so appreciative, and seeing like how grateful they are. I mean, just for example, today there was this old guy from the Navy could barely even look like he bent over. I ran out and do everything, and he was like, "Man, I'm so grateful about. Thank you so much. If I come back, I'm gonna see." I was like, "Yeah, man, come back. I love to get out and help too, you know." And so that kind of stuff, it'll fulfill your soul, and can't just be, just a isolated man living in a bunker by himself, and because that's not what's gonna fulfill you. Maybe you'll survive, but you're definitely not gonna live.
No,
That's how I would say
I
it.
absolutely agree with you, and
Yeah.
you've come out a lot more to a lot more of like with kind of with my friend group a lot lately, and it's been really
Love your
fun
friends,
because
dude.
every
Love your friends. They're
they
all so cool,
they
man.
love you, just so you know, like they're so excited
That's
whenever you're coming.
awesome. Noah's okay, but yeah, no, Noah's fucking hilarious. I was dying. To
Yeah.
get I need to get a little 3x1 picture from that one where
Oh,
his mortuary picture.
yeah.
I want that for my wallet. I need like a little wallet sized one. So
Noah says
just
he's holding a gun to your head as you say this.
oh
He
nice.
said it in the chat.
Just kidding. Love everything about Noah. He's awesome. His dogs are super friendly. And
uh,
no, I've been having a great time though. I love I've seen everyone. It's been so awesome, and honestly, it's really cool seeing like even like Noah having a party, everyone coming to support. Ania having the thing, her green card thing, people supporting that. You're doing the birthday, everyone coming to support it. It makes me feel really awesome. Like seeing that. It reminds me kind of when we used to do that when all my friends were around and still living in San Diego and stuff. It definitely helps you feel more part of the whole.
yeah, I definitely think that, especially like, especially getting out of toxic masculinity, like my friend group has very much helped me with that, right? Because it's like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, not being, uh, I'm trying not to name names, but there's been some friends that I've had
Yeah.
that, uh,
Aren't as beneficial for your like state,
yeah,
what we can say. Yeah, that
yeah,
that kind of exhumes certain traits or personalities that aren't good.
yeah. So I definitely think that if I didn't cut a couple people off, right,
Mhm.
or set boundaries with other people that are still in my life, right, I definitely wouldn't be able to improve and like, and be more positively masculine to those around me and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. Your group is just incredibly like open and cool and just very it's a very fam group. It's fam, like and that's what how it should be. That does remind me, we should start trying to do Sunday dinners. Would be really
that
fun.
would be really
Just
fun.
kind of seeing maybe some people just kind of trying their thing, seeing what you got. You can do a cool appetizer, or you like desserts, or shit you just like to eat. Cool. I love people loving my food, so
All right, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we'll start planning
we
this.
gotta start doing that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
That's another thing that I wanted to bring up too about like a certain trait of mine that I see as like not overtly masculine that I really like is insane, the one that you have, cooking.
hmm
It's just so just the science of it and the art of it and just being in there and being able to turn just a bunch of ingredients into like these amazing dishes or desserts or like bread. Yeah, I haven't bought bread in 6 months at least. I've been just making my own different breads and I love it. Each time they're getting better and better, and I can
yeah.
do whatever variation with it.
When we were talking a little bit about this on Friday, like I was mentioning, like it's very weird that cooking has become a little less stigmatized towards women, but baking hasn't. It's like
Mhm.
they're like the same thing, but like
They're
it's a weird
mhm,
distinction. I don't know.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird because it's like there. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if you're doing a stir fry like seafood dish and you're out there and I'm over here with the pan going, I'm just like ta 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 da 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 dice this in da da da, and it looks very aesthetic and shit's flying and I'm fucking cutting stuff and I'm in the zone. It does look a little more masculine than when I'm have all my like flours and sugars out and my eggs and I'm whipping it and I'm getting it. And it's weird because, like you said, it's basically the same actions. You're just using ingredients, mixing them at certain temperatures, doing, baking them at certain degrees, and they come out awesome, but it's just baking is has always been, especially in like the 50s, 60s, like the swife thing,
Hmm.
so much so that men didn't does like never even really cooked.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that kind of ended when the single income household died. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was a very strange like model that went for a long time. But even so, nowadays you think like there's not a lot of people who know how to cook. And I mean even male or female, like men or women, there's a lot that don't know like how to turn flour, sugar, water into bread, Like
Yeah,
it's not, and it's such a good trait to have. And I think part of the reason why a lot of the things nowadays is going so expensive, everything's going up in price, and you can't go to a place and buy a meal nowadays without it being like $20. Is people don't understand, like, it, like they see a meal and they're like, oh, I can, this is so amazing, I never make that. Whenever I try something at a place, I'm like, oh, I see, I wonder how I can make this and see what I can do with it, and and it always comes out cheaper, and it comes out better,
yeah, I definitely think that's yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there aren't a lot of restaurants that I go to anymore that I'm like, I could probably do this better, right? Like there's like the
Yeah.
ramen places, I can't make ramen.
Oh no.
It's too
Yeah,
complicated.
that's yeah, and they have so much time to sit with their broths to just go like day after day, and
Yeah,
just like get all those flavors. Like that is what they do, and I mean, I definitely will support that,
right.
for sure.
Or like I
But
might,
there's certain ones too, and you're like, oh, you've had it, and you're like, man, I could make this one myself,
yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's the next question. How do you think traditional masculinity has helped or failed you, or both? Just
So, I mean, it's that I don't get me wrong. Like the traditional sense of masculinity is helpful in teaching you like the tenacity traits and kind of like keep persevering and you know don't let things like get to you. But I would say it just in that small sliver of that is like a nugget of benefit, but surrounding it, just because not everyone is the same, everyone's functions are different, their chemical makeups are different, their neurochemicals are all producing differently. So me being someone who is a I'm slightly enduring. Like there's been hard times, just like with everyone, and I know that I can get myself through it. And someone else who maybe process things as like functionally or think as concretely as about stuff like when they take those stressors, who's to say they're not going to break, and because they were never taught to share their feelings and they were always taught like you need to endure, and if it gets shitty then you just keep getting like meaner or more, yeah, that could work, but I also very very much see, especially from a psychological background, how that has become extremely harmful for a lot of people in our day and age with different uh social not diseases, I wouldn't say that because not everyone is as on the spectrum with stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of like people with panic attacks, depression that's going on because some people couldn't feel like they could express themselves. I mean, I know a lot of people. Even my sister, she has some anxiety because she grew up not being able to like she can fully express herself, I think, and that's a tough thing to do. I mean, it really is. And a lot of times if she was like overly emotional, like parents that are a little bit more traditional, they could have been harder on it and kind of shot that kind of stuff down a little bit more. And it did translate later. And not to say like, oh, it's faults and this is because of this, and parents are just cause effect stuff with psychology, people, the way that people perceive it, the way that they internalize it, and the way that they externalize it, express it. It just all depends on the person. And some people, they some of those hardcore traits, and now they're just kind of having problems, and if they're not able to get over it and understand what's going on, they could pass it to their kids. Cycle of issues. you
yeah.
know
Well, yeah, and I think it's become a like with men, it's become a huge issue. I think of showing any sort of like heavy emotion, right? Because even as like wonderful as my mom is, I have had very clear moments of my mom like a man is crying, and she's
Mhm.
like, "Why is he crying?" Like, and she just like this like
It's like
rejection.
this. Why is this guy crying over here?
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
rejection, right?
yeah,
Of the man crying. Even like
yeah.
before she even finds out, she's already like, okay, there's no reason for him to be crying, and it's like, okay, well,
Hmm. That's our
there
traditional
might
view,
be,
and
yeah, that there might be a
yeah,
reason for him to be crying. Okay, you
yeah.
haven't
There could be a
even,
lot of reasons.
yeah, you haven't even asked. Okay, what if his whole family
Yeah.
was wiped out? Because then can he cry then? You know, like you haven't even
Boom.
figured it out. You know, or like we
Is
go,
one of his family members just got some disease, and boom, he just lost his job, and now he can't pay for it, or he has no insurance.
right.
That would be a very heavy thing. Like I don't know if I would like bawl, but on top of that, on his way over, he ran over his own dog.
You're right.
Who knows? Like, you never know. But that's the thing too. And with my mom, I see it a little bit as well. Is they were definitely more like hard traditional. They grew up in El Cajon, and like I'm sure grandma they could come to with stuff, but for the most part, I bet they weren't as expressive. At least the papa. I mean,
Yeah.
especially, I mean now you can see how it's a little harder for our parents to talk to their parents as it is for us to talk to our parents. I feel like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's the nature of being like poor and like growing up poor and Hispanic is like it's very,
Yeah.
very, you're very, very, very traditional, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Lots of people and not a lot of space,
right. That
but
also,
making it work.
yeah, of course.
I always think about how like, and even when we were growing up, like grandma and my and like even our parents and stuff, man, they made like straight miracles going on during like Thanksgiving and Christmas and
Oh yeah.
stuff. Especially grandma, dude. Oh my God! Not only is she making miracles for all of us, just like pulling toys out of literal air,
Yeah.
like a magic angel, but she'd go out and like express that with other people and try to find people who needed more and share those traits with them. And I remember one Christmas there was a homeless guy walking outside on that street, like there is often, and she ran out, got him a coat, got him a blanket and stuff, just wishing happy holidays and Merry Christmas. And I mean that's a really good thing. That's something that I've learned, and that compassion, that giving. And I mean, yeah, I guess traditionally it came from grandma. It came from the ultimate like caregiver, and that was a very like almost the most like motherly female traits. But I mean, for me, that's something that I internalize, and at least I try to do as much as I can, like try to help people and spread that joy. And other situations, I'll think of like, well, what will grandma do? Like, would she let things kind of get to her, and would she take let situations kind of bring her person and her like loving aura down. Like, no, she never could. She would always just was just that like endless fountain. And even though those weren't overtly like masculine traits that she was like exhuming, that's something that I took in and made my own. And I see those as like maybe not masculine traits, but they're definitely good traits that like all. I mean, everyone should have, especially like people who like are masculine and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's definitely one of the people in my life who's like motivated me to like get back to my community a lot, right? Like I definitely I have all these memories of her just giving back to the community, whether it's like running daycare or
yeah,
going down and giving people stuff on Christmas, or you know, just being being the matriarch of our little community, right?
exactly.
Yeah, and I definitely have taken on some of that role. I feel like with my friend group, but I definitely feel like I'm a little bit of like the
Yeah.
older brother for everyone, which is nice. Yeah,
You definitely try to be the caregiver a lot, which is cool. And I mean, to be for me too, that was my role as well. Like when we used to do the groups and Sunday dinners, I was always more the caregiver. And not to say I wouldn't like drink and get like fucked up and stuff, because yeah, I definitely would. But I'm always on it, and was able to still take, take care of everyone.
yeah,
Just something I guess that we just learned early on, just from our role models, and it's just something that we like subconsciously just kind of try to do.
yeah. It's definitely very like osmotic in a way. Like I
Yeah.
just like no one ever told us to be that way. It's just kind of like it's just like
Yeah,
a
just kind of happen.
yeah,
You just kind of like that feels like what you do. Like someone needs it and you do it. And that's not like not really a feminine trait either, or a masculine trait. Like I would say, it's even more classified as feminine, but I'd say that's an extremely, extremely vital trait for everyone to have. And even
Yeah,
positive masculine trait that should absolutely be part of that classification.
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I think people we know that we've helped recently, like, I don't think uh, they would trade, us being the caregiver and taking care of them in their times of need,
Yeah.
for
Oh
us,
yes.
for us being more masculine. Like, get the fuck out. Like,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah. They're not going to say like, "Oh, I need a more feminine care." We both have that exhuming and that care and that compassion and comfort is another word for it too. That's
but
very important for most masculine
I
to
would,
have.
I would say the caregiving, um, is something that's both masculine and feminine, but
Hmm.
that traditionally comfort is more feminine
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
protection is more masculine. But I think it's
Yes.
important for you to do both because
Yes.
most of the time you don't need to protect anybody. Like we live in the
Hmm.
United States of America in San Diego. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in San Diego, California, in the United States of
Yeah.
America. Okay, all right.
Yeah. There's not too much crazy stuff going on.
Most of the time we hang out in my apartment. All right, so, we're gonna be fine. No one needs to be protected. Okay, it's mostly comfort and like when people have things that they have
Hmm.
wrong, you help them, right? And you give back to your community and you do it right. It's
Yep.
not, yeah. So
Yep. It's funny that you say that. Next time you walk into your apartment, there's gonna be like three ninjas, like, and you look over at the nearest weapon by you, the prop God of War swords,
yeah. Oh
and
my god.
that's both protecting and comforting.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what is it? So let's see. What's the next question? Oh, who are your masculine role models or like your community that you think are like
Hmm.
it can be, and the role models
Yeah.
don't need to be real. Like it can be definitely
Oh,
like a
okay.
yeah.
Oh shit. All right then. Well, I mean, real ones like my masculine. I like what at least I grew up with the most masculine views was, or like my most masculine viewed person. Probably my grandpa or maybe my dad. Probably grandpa though, because he's like the old. He's like your dad, but even more like. But maybe that's. I mean, that was always just because he was like also very old school, like traditional. He was. I mean, when I knew him though, he was very compassionate and had a lot of. He was just very. He had a good way of just like booming his charisma and just making everyone have like a great time and just being like a just a big wave of positivity. um I'd say I like those. I thought I was like, man, because it's very, oh, like there's a lot of like pride in there and just confidence and just personality or like personability, and those are all just things that at least I saw. I was like, man, that's kind of what I would like to kind of be and do, or like if I could have that effect where I just make everyone like happier coming in, that would be a like maybe not an ideal, but that's something that I would strive for a little bit subconsciously, maybe.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
But for not real, um, um, Batman probably,
Why
probably, you know,
why Batman?
um, because he is like stoic, like he's basically like the stoic hero. Like he is just so like on it, and his like the way that he just like perceives everything, and just like the way that he can fit together the puzzle and critically think. That's a big thing too. Is how strong of a critical thinker he is. Only a Virgo. I don't know about in the comics, but because I don't remember his birthday, but very Virgo-ish in his. But there's that hardcore stoicism to help people, not wanting any thanks and appreciation for it, those qualities. But then there's also, being so emotionally closed off that you're like make a prison in your own mind for yourself, and, wanted to like beat some villains until they were like nothing, So, I mean, he had some of his masculine traits too,
I think
but at least, yeah.
I think with Batman, one of my favorite aspects of his masculinity is he understands the ways he's toxically masculine, and he tries to make sure his sons are not toxically masculine in the same way, right?
I was
Like,
gonna say how he portrays it to Dick Grayson, like even during the when with the episode where he's going after his parents in the New Adventures of Batman back in the day,
mhm,
or his parents' killer,
mhm.
and he's trying to not let Robin get his bad trait, basically turn it to him.
Yeah, and another good example of him with Dick Grayson is when everyone's criticizing. It's in Young Justice, scene in Young Justice, where everyone's criticizing Batman for taking on Dick when he was 9 years old, and Wonder Woman is like, "Oh, did you do this so he'd turn out like you?" And he's like, "No, I did it so that he wouldn't be me."
So he wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and that's true.
in every way, if you read the comics or any of the good adaptations of Batman, Dick
Mm-hmm.
Grayson is a happy person, right? And a lot of that is because Batman did not let him become Batman, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
reason he doesn't stay as Batman for very long. It's usually when Batman's like got his back broken, or usually when
Mm-hmm.
Batman like is like shot through time or whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever stupid comic shit, right?
Yeah. One of those classic Batman shot through time incidences.
Yeah,
Yeah. One of a million.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, yeah. So
But
I
that's very true though, and with that too, I thought it was really interesting how even with the proximity of like working with Batman, and when Dick Grayson started to get older and get more into the Nightwing era, there started to be the clear line of like I can't become him, like I will do anything to not be this person, and it's not because of his overtly masculine like negative traits, because he did everything he could to try to protect him, but just over like the long period of the small amounts of influence, and how he kind of, especially later on, like with some of the villains, like how he was internalizing them. It was like the perfect teenage angst against the parent, like like and we all feel that. Like I mean, like I love qualities of my dad, and if I had a loving family, it's awesome, but awesome. A lot of us have grown up saying, "I don't want to become my parents," because we want to be our own person and express our own traits and masculinity, how we did it, and try to do it better. We always think.
yeah, I do think that like one of the ways parents can be reworked is to try to let your child be a little more independent on from the get go, right? Because I've definitely taken a
Mm-hmm.
lot more traits from my parents than I've chosen to. Um,
It's weird how they just creep up on you.
yeah,
You
exactly.
don't really see them for a while, and you're like, oh gosh.
And then you're in therapy and you're like, I need to help everyone, or I feel like shit about myself. And they're like, this is because your mom. And I'm like, don't do this to me right now.
Hey, what about is this because of your mom? Why you're doing therapy? Sometimes you just gotta throw it right back at them. You gotta show them that you are defensive and ready to attack.
Yeah. Let's
That's
see.
funny.
Um, do you think that society is trying to remove some positive aspects of masculinity?
I would say that society, even the idea of masculinity as like um a social group, or like
A construct?
an institution or a construct, yeah, that's super terrifying to people. And even so, like just like telling people, I'm doing a positive masculinity podcast. Instantly, especially nowadays with how everything has been and how everything's going, people are like, they almost don't want to be associated with it, and or can't be associated with it, because if someone hears that they were part of a positive masculinity podcast, that means for sure that they are also supporting negative femininity ever. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a weird. And I've been thinking about it for the couple days too. It's just such a strange thing that even something labeled as a positive masculinity podcast could be more stigmatized than like a, a feminist radical, a radical, but like a feminist, group for change or something. And both would be okay, but I mean, people would for sure 100% support more feminist, a feminist podcast than they would a masculine one. I mean, weirdly, with everything going on, and
Well, I think the interesting part about that is like because I've gotten a lot of criticism from some certain person I know,
hmm
and they have told me that like, well, it's really what you're preaching is just feminism, and I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but like all the social connotations with the word feminism
hmm
is fuck men, right? And I
yeah,
understand as a decently well read person on feminism, that's not like
hmm
what especially the original feminist writers, right, were writing about,
hmm
right? The idea was to like break down some of these social barriers that like men and women had expectations
hmm
of, right?
hmm
But positive masculinity is a part of feminism, right? And it's a part of feminism we don't usually talk about. We very rarely talk about as a society, right?
if I'm not mistaken, I thought that feminism, like by definition, part of it is like being like positive or like a masculine positive something. If I'm, or like they have to
Yes.
be able to support. It's not like an anti, like that. But that's like part of it is someone who like supports the rights of women, supports the rights of like or like equality for all, and also supports rights for men too.
Right.
Like and that's how it should be.
Right, and it is how it should be, and it is how it's like when you look at like the academic definition of feminism, right? That's what it
hmm
is, right? Like I'm not going to get it
hmm
twisted with anybody, right? Like
Yeah,
what we're doing here is we're really just doing feminism, right? But
yeah,
because like the social stigma around the word feminism has become
hmm
so ingrained, right? It's
hmm
a there's an idea that feminism can't be talked about by men, right? So
hmm
socially, and there's B, right? That it means that men can go kick rocks, right? So it's like from
hmm
a two pronged approach. I was never going to make a podcast called like men talk about feminism, okay?
Yeah,
That just
or a podcast that says masculine men tell women to kick rocks.
well,
Like,
that would be terrible, right? But yeah,
hey, of course,
yeah,
but see how it's a double sided sword.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, so like yeah, I wasn't gonna name it like the male feminist podcast. That seems creepy.
yeah,
Every dude who I know who's like I'm a male feminist. I'm like you're also a fucking creep. Which is
yeah.
unfortunate. Like it's one of those things you do and you shut up about.
Where you need to basically you're trying so hard, like the well, just because we had Halloween recently, and there was the example of people wearing Ken outfits, and there's some people who like the Ken outfit, and that's like really what they're about, and they like the movie and all, and then there's some who are like, hey, this is a great pairing to the most popular girl outfit, which is Barbie. What a great in
yeah,
anyone wearing a Barbie outfit. And that's not really a way to or how you should really pick a costume or go, or I mean, it's just using like the idea of being a positive man to like kind of trick, I guess, people on Halloween or whatever. I don't know. It was weird. It's a weird thing to see, and even at work I saw, and like out and about I saw some people who, you know, and you're like, this guy is definitely a fuckboy Ken.
right. And yeah, yeah, especially this year. And it's also like I think that like I was saying a second ago, like when you're doing male feminism, it should be something you just do and you shut the fuck up about, right? Like
Yeah,
you don't you don't brag about treating everyone equally. You just do it
yeah.
and you shut up.
Because that's what you should do, and
Yeah.
then and you don't need to say, "Hey, I'm doing this," because you're doing it.
Yeah, it kind of seems like you're trying to get brownie points to do something else that's probably not very feminist, you know?
Yeah, and that's true, and that's where that stoicism really comes into play. Where that I think that's such a value trait. Where nowadays it's almost like kind of forgotten about or like disregarded. I guess,
Yeah, I
and it's.
think. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that there's a lot of like traditionally masculine and traditionally feminine traits that we can
hmm
like kind of pick apart, right?
Yeah.
I was talking about this with my friend Isaiah who did the first podcast, right? And he grew up being raised very like non-gendered is the way to put it. Like he didn't have a huge
hmm
masculine influence from his parents, right? So when he got to adulthood and he started like interacting with a lot of these more masculine qualities, he didn't have like all this baggage that all the rest of us have, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he got the privilege to pick and choose the things from masculinity and femininity that he liked, and put it
Mm-hmm.
in. And it's one of the reasons that Isaiah, I think, doesn't carry around a lot of this weight that we carry around to like hide our emotions or become
Mm-hmm.
isolated that I think that a lot of us do, right?
That's very interesting, and I think with that too, you're able to not have to use those traits as like a projection technique or a coping mechanism or a
Yeah.
way to convince yourself that, oh, I'm for sure like a manly man, like look at, because like look what I'm doing, or bragging about how many chicks you're hooking up with, because that's like what manly men do, like, it's just you're able to see things a little bit more abstractly and not have it like those blinders that years of behavioral reinforcement apply to all of us. I mean, that's what happens. Like, certain things and the ways you live and the environment you live in, that influence, even if it's not conscious, is subconsciously how your actions are and how you think.
Oh, for sure. I have one friend who's like super left leaning, like super super
Mm-hmm.
super left leaning, right? In every way, he supports all the feminist things, but he
Mm-hmm.
cannot, for the life of him, get past like he can't get past this idea that he needs to like have sex with a lot of women, right? Like a lot of women, and when he doesn't, he feels like less of a man, right? And that's like,
Interesting.
yeah, and
It'd be interesting to see how his relationship is with his like male role model and female role model.
right. I don't. I've met
That's
his
that.
I've met his
That's
mom,
all. That's I thought.
but yeah, but yeah, which is really interesting, and I don't know, like, and I don't even know how to help him with that because I'm obviously so not like that, right? I'm married
Yeah.
already, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I spent most,
Married?
yeah, I am married, yeah,
You're married?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've spent most of my, yeah,
No.
uh,
Yeah, but you and me, like we never were really like that, and like not to say that we both were in college. You went to college like at the university. I lived by colleges and shit. I mean, like we like having a good time and all that stuff. But for me and for you, like we never felt the need that the amount of women that we can up with or bed or whatever is like a deciding factor into like your masculinity level. And like the guys who do brag about that, and there's a reason why we don't have like douche friends you
yeah,
know
yeah. It's definitely a rejection of it's definitely a rejection of my dad who keeps track down to the single digit, which is like,
oh yeah.
you
Well, you're
know,
definitely not going to be like that, is for sure,
I
like
mean,
consciously and subconsciously.
it's easy, for me to keep track down to the single digit,
Yeah. Well,
uh,
that's a good thing, man. Nowadays, too, especially like with all the influence and everything, like that's a big thing that people think they need to like show off and whatnot or project. And even so, there's like females that like I know who like online, oh my god, they act like they're like the hottest shit ever, and they are like so confident and so out there. And guys too will do this, and then you meet them in person, and you're like, man, this person can't even talk like really to you. Like they're just like so like weird, nervous, and like they put up such a facade to like know, be like the hot Instagram person, or you're doing like pictures of you
yeah,
downtown at a party and stuff, but even you're like, dude, I know this is all not very not true.
it's
But for
definitely
them, it makes them feel better.
it's
It
definitely
works for
like a
them.
post COVID thing, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Though, because that is how a lot of people identified themselves for like a couple of years.
yeah, yeah. I think, well, yeah, because they practiced being online for 2 years and not being able to talk to anyone, and then now we're supposed to talk to people, and they're just, yeah. Yeah, I thought I was a pretty awkward guy, like before the pandemic, and now after the pandemic, I'm like, bro, I'm killing it, like, like I should,
It's because you're just like normal to people. You're just like nice to people, and it's weird because even so, like I'm over here. I'm helping a lot of like people, like old people with their checks. There'll be some ladies that need help and stuff, and sometimes like they're real cool. Sometimes they're super awkward. Sometimes they're like, oh, mom, you need help me, and it's like I'm helping everyone. Like, yeah, if you were struggling, you need help, cool. If you're not struggling, you can do it yourself. Awesome, Like, but some people they go around thinking like anything that happens is like, oh god, this is like the person's trying to like hit on me or whatever, and it's like, oh no, I'm helping all these people. And as a matter of fact, I like helping the old people more because they're like nice and cool and ask you how your day is, and
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
I definitely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird social place that we're at right now. I'd say for sure.
Yeah, we're recovering. It's definitely better than it was right after everything. It's definitely better, but
Well, right after everything, people would literally, like, back in the day. I mean, not even back in the day. I'm not like fucking 90 years old, but,
yes,
but back in the day,
yeah,
if you're walking by someone, you're just like, oh, what's up? And they're like, oh, hey, how's your day, or whatever. And like, oh, it's good. Like, oh, I like your earrings or whatever. Oh, I like your shirt is cool. That's cool. That's just like being nice and friendly and stuff. Like, and after everything happened, like with COVID and everything, dude, people were just avoiding people. Like, you'd be walking and someone's walking here, and they straight cross the street to go around, or you would even feel the need almost to be like, oh, I
oh
can't
yeah,
get near this person.
oh yeah,
And now, like, there's still times where you're walking by, and there's some people who still like they're smile, or someone has a cool dog. And they're like, "Oh, you beautiful pup," and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then there's some people who still will act like they're trying to avoid everyone. And that's cool. I mean,
yeah,
do your thing. I mean, whatever makes you feel good.
yeah.
You know,
It's
but it's just weird where we're at
yeah, it's crazy. Even my apartment, like I'll just like say hi to people that I see fucking
every day.
every single day. I see you leave, you walk to work, like walk to our cars together, and I walk home, and I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And some people are like, "Yeah, like what are you doing, bro? Like why are you looking at me like I'm trying to like rob your house? Like you know it.
Yeah.
You see me every day.
You see me.
Yeah, I'm
I mean, it
obviously
could
not
be
trying to
just like
rob you. You know."
maybe that's like kind of their view. Like sometimes they think initially like oh, this like masculine looking dude is like could be dangerous, or for example, I was coming over to work out the other day, had all my workout stuff on. I was like ready to do the pump. And this lady was in here in the elevator with her little kid.
Yeah.
And so I get in and doing she said, oh, what floor or whatever. It's kind of being a little. And I was like, oh, four, please, if you don't mind, but push it. Sitting there, and she's kind of like here, and then the kid's like looking at me, and it's like, ah, and I was like, yeah, what's going on? And she's like, ah, got the curly hair,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I like your curly hair, and then the mom's like, oh, he's nice, oh, he's like actually cool, or and like was being real friendly and stuff after, and so
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, initially too, like sometimes we can look kind of brooding, I guess, or but that's just, I mean, that's part of it. There's some people who look more caring, and but once they like see you and you interact and stuff, and they realize like everything's cool, like, I mean, it's almost you realize how like silly you are sometimes,
Yeah.
where you would
Um,
almost like avoid people.
mhm. What do you think about the term positive masculinity?
I mean, there's like, I mean, I think it's such a great term for it. And I mean, even though it could be like stigmatized, because you say that to someone, be like, oh, I want to be like positive, masculine, whatever, and they, are low. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, it should be like what everyone identifies like themselves as, and even being someone who is like super like about feminism and supports feminism, like you have to also to support positive masculinity just the same way that us as positive masculines, I support the shit out of positive feminine traits and qualities, and being independent, and being someone who can be compassionate or giving. And for me, like my hypothetical significant other in the future, it would hopefully be someone who builds on the qualities that I have, and helps in the same way that I build on the qualities that she has, and together we can make this castle, or this strong fortress that can really survive anything. And that's the ideal. But with that, you have to support positive masculinity, or someone being a positive feminist. And
Yeah,
nowadays it's almost stigmatized.
I definitely think that there's like there can be an issue where a lot of um, so women tend to like the leaders of their friend group. There's like this whole thing about that whole like trends talking about like, oh, is he the leader of the friend group, right? Um, it's a
I mean,
very
I haven't heard this. That's they're trying to
it's
like
like
identify out like an alpha or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting way to think about it. I wouldn't go to a female group and being like, oh, I'm trying to find the queen bee,
It's
see who's in charge.
right. Um,
Yeah, that's weird.
it's a very weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But the cycle, the issue, right, that you run in with that is in a lot of friend groups, right? How you become the alpha is you have the most unhealthy form of masculinity possible. Okay, and that's how you get to the top. So you're just creating this cycle of like, okay, women want alphas. Okay, in order to be an alpha,
Yeah.
I have to shit on all of my friends every time we're out.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
have to have the biggest muscles, and I have to tell
Yeah.
everyone that you don't, your pump sucks. Da, 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 like,
Yeah.
right, and then
Yeah.
you're just creating this loop where you're just like, you know.
Yeah. Hey, as a side note, real quick, I thought that, or the podcast, maybe a rename of it is the Positive Universal Masculinity
The
Podcast.
universe, why the universal? Oh, because the pump, yeah.
Pump! Then you could get pump!
Oh my god.
But no, I mean, you are totally right. And a lot of times, like, what people see as alpha, at least in my opinion, is like just bullheadedness. And I mean, just because someone is like what is identified as the leader or like the loudest or the one who's telling other people what to do, that just means that the other people are just like, I don't want to deal with your shit, dude. Like, if you want to like try to tell, and a lot of times, especially now, like you see it getting older, you don't keep being friends with those people. So like the alpha that people are identifying is really just like the one who's the most toxic masculine, and you end up after like growing up and just realizing like what life is. You're like, I don't need this person, and you're like, what the hell's this?
Hmm.
And that's what happens more times than not.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think that part of the issue is that men do what works when it comes to getting women, and the problem is that sometimes it works. Sometimes it does work, which is unfortunate, right?
I think it works a lot more than it should, for sure.
Right, but then the reverse is also true. There's plenty of things that women do that are like, right?
Yeah,
Not to hamstring myself every time I say something, but like, yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely
very true,
there's definitely problems with our modern dating market, right? For sure.
very true, very true. And I will say, actually, just someone who's out there and is like in that market and whatnot, like doing that shot, whatever. I mean, it is very like no, it's I wouldn't even classify a lot of these females, these girls, as women. Like they're really not. I mean, a lot of these girls, they're girls. They're over here trying to play games or do their project their stuff on you, and you know they think. I mean, at least because I hear a lot of radio at work too. So a lot of these songs nowadays, it's weird, man. It's all people cheating on people. How many dudes you could have, how many side chicks you could have, like all this stuff. I'm like, dude, what? This is the weirdest shit, man. Like, if you like someone, like you like them. That's how it is. You hang out, you have a great time and all that. Like, I don't feel the need to be like, okay, yeah, I like this girl, but I also want this girl, and I also need this over here, and maybe some of this. Like it's
Yeah.
not healthy. It's not good for anyone, and maybe because that's what the norm is. Like, you get a cycle of girls who think that all dudes are douchebags because they have a bunch of girls, and because of that, they're trying to get a bunch of dudes, and then the dudes are like, "Man, I'm gonna hang out with these hoes." Or I
So
mean, nowadays dudes don't even care about that; they'll hang out with the hoes. But at least for me,
no no.
you know,
Um, so I was talking to one of my podcasts was talking about it. So if you look at the dating like data, right?
Mhm.
Only like in dating on dating apps, only like 10% of men really get like 80% of the women, right?
Mhm.
So likely, what's happening is a lot of women. It's not that these women are dating all these men, right? It's that one of
Mhm.
these men is ruining men for like for possibly
For all of
for
these.
possibly an entire friend group, and they're like, yeah, guys
Yeah.
suck, and it's the same dude.
Yeah.
They all dated Chad, okay,
Yeah.
and they don't.
And Chad's a fucking super loser.
Yeah.
Who was absolutely not loved by his mom.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that actually, because not even in like a date, like that's the dating info, like on the site is that's perfectly identifies it. But you think like the guy who is like the most like, or even I would say has alpha traits of being like way out there and in whatever the fuck to all these females. I mean, a lot of times it's because this guy casts such a big net, and you get responses, or
Yeah.
people will be intrigued for some reason and kind of see like, oh, there's something more. But then turns out, oh yeah, he's a total douchebag. Guys are total douchebags. Like fuck all this.
Hmm.
I'm just not gonna, and then it kind of ruins like some women, in the same way that some of these like super shitty women who think that they can have a bunch of dudes and you don't people aren't getting affected by it. They're ruining some men too.
Of
Because
course,
then at
right?
the
Like,
end you're like, why would I want to do this if I can just be a douche or whatever, or just like hook up? But this just depends on what you're looking for too. I mean, I learned very early on. I mean that stuff is fun. It's cool, awesome. It's a very good time, but it's not like as sustaining to the soul as like a committed, passionate, loving relationship where you two are helping each other like be better people. And like, I think sharing yourself with someone like that is just way worth way more than number of females that you could bed.
I obviously do know. Yeah, right. Again,
I don't know if you feel the same way, dude.
I've been with my wife for like my almost my entire
What
adult life. Yeah,
what is it, 8 years now?
7 years. Yeah. So
7 years?
when I was right before I turned 19. So whoa, maybe no, wait, I turned 19 freshman year, so no, right before I turned 20. So yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it would be 7 years now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And yeah, and that's the thing is like a lot of, and nowadays too, a lot of the like normal girls and females and women and stuff, they're kind of doing their own thing. They're kind of happy and stuff, and it sucks because you think about like the pool, like you think about your sample pool or what you're doing. A lot of these females are females who are just kind of going out there and keep hooking up and keep, and so you, the same way, if you're you're a girl and you're like, oh, Chad's a douchebag, but you're like, oh, fucking Cindy's a hoe over here, and like, that's how all these, it's easy to kind of fall into that cycle, especially when there's so much influence like that, and so little influence from like who respect and understand and value like traditional views, or just like the importance of like being commitment, or like just being there for each other and helping each other build and stuff.
I definitely think that there's this. We overvalue confidence in men. I think that like that's not a. It's not because even in all of our media and stuff, like the confident man is usually the hero, and right. Definitely think that
Mm-hmm.
there's this overvaluing of confident men by other men, by women, by movies, by any media that we do. Right. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
not good. It's probably not the because like that's also like yeah sure you're selecting for somebody who's like got the confidence to make a decision, but you're also selecting for somebody who could be like a fucking sociopath, like a narcissist. Narcissists
Who
are also super confident inherently.
are sociopaths are very good at using their confidence to benefit their own situation.
Right, and same with like
Yeah,
same, yeah. So it's like maybe like
that's very true, very very true.
so
And not
maybe
even just that, like being that confidence, like I mean, just traditionally, just from all throughout history, from the times of hunters gatherers, like that confidence, that like it is an attractor for a lot of girls. A female or women can kind of see over that, but that is, you can ask 99 out of 100 like ladies, like, do you want your man to be confident and like to feel like he knows what he's doing and to have a plan. Oh, and honestly, I want a very confident woman or girl, not girl. I'm kind of done with girls. I want a very confident woman, or like a female, a lady who kind of knows what she wants or knows what she's doing, and but that's the thing, is it could also be someone who knows what they want and knows what they're doing. They're a sociopath.
right. I
Well,
think
it's all identifiers, and having to just have to judge each situation too.
I agree with you.
But a lot of the overtly confident, masculine, like out there, confident men, are con men's. So
Right.
that is part of it, like that. So you just have to kind of be able to past the confident facade into someone who actually knows and like stands what they're doing, and maybe someone who is more stoic about their confidence and how they are, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think this like this flamboyant confidence is like definitely probably something that we should, uh, as a society, try to like value less and less.
Mm.
Definitely think that this, if you truly have confidence, you don't need to tell anyone you have confidence. You're just gonna do what you're gonna do. Everything's gonna be
You
fine.
know it.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to tell yourself that you have confidence, and or
Right.
convince yourself through other people. You know.
Okay. My Wi-Fi is like actually dying now. Okay. All right. So luckily this is recorded and not streamed. Um, Thank you, everyone. I think that I'm gonna wrap it up on the third disconnect. Um, Appreciate it. I love you all. I will put Nick's Instagram in the description. He has a photography Instagram. I'm sure he'd appreciate the follow. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Good night.